All right, I think we're live. Hello and welcome, everyone. What? Sorry. My producer husband over here is distracting me with his annoyance of my production quality or production skills. Anyway, welcome to our Facebook Live for our episode this week. I'm super excited to introduce you guys to a friend of mine and a guest, which is exciting. This season, we've had a few guests that I've never met before, which is exciting for me because I'm like, oh, I get to interview people I've never met, but it's super fun to be able to interview friends of mine too. So on that note, welcome, Camille. How are you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. I think I listened to part of our podcast earlier, and I think whenever I said welcome, how are you? We talked about the kids being in bed, and that was like, and naturally I was about to be like, are all your kids in bed? Because it's weird to see someone alone and like no heads are popping up behind you.
Right. Well, mine are in bed and my husband is not here. So I've kind of like bribed them to stay in their beds tonight. So
what did you bribe them with?
They're all going to stay in there and not be, joining us.
What did you bribe him with?
Oh, well, actually, it was mostly just Zach. He has these special little gear toys that he can earn. And so I told him he could have some extra time with his toys tomorrow.
That's a good incentive.
Stay in his bed.
Anything that doesn't cost you money is a good incentive.
It's nice and easy, but he's very motivated. So that's good.
There's also the incentive of like, if you stay in your room, you will not get grounded.
Right.
Bingo.
Like, is that a positive reinforcement or a negative one, right?
I love it. Well, okay. So if you are tuning in live or not live and you have any questions for me or for Camille, then drop them in the comments and we'll answer them as we go. But if it's not live, both of us can monitor the feed and we'll drop in to answer those questions or respond. So, I just wanted to pop on with you and talk a little bit about your episode. So for for the listeners who have not quite finished the episode or haven't even started it, what are some of the things, just what's an overview of your story? Obviously, you're an adoptive mom, but what's kind of your family history?
Okay, well, I have 3 kids, and Zach is my oldest, and he is my child that's adopted. He's from Vietnam. And he is 12 years old now. We adopted him in 2006 when he was about 10 months. And when we went to Vietnam, we had no idea that he had special needs until we went into the orphanage and picked him up, figured out right away something was going on. So took us really years to get some of his diagnoses. But at that point, within a year, we understood that he had cerebral palsy. And then it was years later when we found out he was autistic. And so it's definitely been just a journey of kind of figuring things out with him. And then I have 2 biological kids. Who are 9 and 5. They're both girls. So
what do you think about it?
Yeah. I always say the wrong age. So
you're like, no.
Right.
And so I don't want anyone to miss that piece of information. So this special needs adopted child from another country was your intro into motherhood.
Correct.
Which is crazy pants.
It was kind of crazy to become a mom in a foreign country and, you're just kind of handed a child. And then we lived there for 3 weeks with him traveling from hotel to hotel and just kind of like figuring Vietnam out. So it was definitely kind of crazy, but some really good memories too. So,
yeah, well, absolutely. But I mean, it's not, you had obviously seen a baby before, but you didn't have one of your own. So I imagine you're still like, I think this is not normal, but I have nothing to compare him to. And so you just felt like, okay, I guess we'll just figure this out. But at that time, you had no idea what you were stepping into. Not that you would have
we had no idea really what it meant. We knew right away he was not using his right arm. And I didn't really know what that meant. And as far as medical conditions, I didn't have a lot of medical knowledge. And so we just knew, okay, something's not right, and we need to figure this out and get him as much help as we can. When we were in Vietnam, we were just kind of trying to get through all the paperwork and get home at that point. And our idea was, let's just get home. As soon as we get home, get to the doctor and kind of find out what all this means and what he needs to thrive in his life.
Yeah, definitely. And the biggest thing that we talked about, or the biggest overview topic of your interview, was just talking about these unmet expectations and how oftentimes in adoption we walk in thinking it's going to be one way, or we know it's going to be hard, but we have no tools to even understand what that word means in adoption. Like, sure, it's going to be hard, but what does that even mean? And then all of a sudden you're a special needs mom and an adoptive mom, and you're in way over your head, and you only have Jesus to help you through. And that's kind of a gut punch. I mean, these completely interrupted expectations, they force you to grieve something that you never had. And that's painful.
Yeah. Yeah. There are things that I don't think you really can prepare for until you go through them. And so going into that, even if someone had told me some of the things that we might deal with, I'm not sure that I could have even been prepared for them until I went through them and really experienced them. But it was just definitely a learning experience. It's taught me a lot just about special needs, families that deal with that type of difficulty. And but it's been good in opening my eyes just to other people and kind of the pain that they go through, other families that have kids with special needs, because it is different than a family that has all typical children.
Right. Absolutely. And yeah, I mean, I can't even imagine. I feel like I can't fully relate, but I think most adoptions come with some kind of a disability. Most adoptions most international adoptions, I'll say, because you don't get the child until they're a lot older and have experienced some sort of orphanage care, but certainly through foster care. And a lot of these disabilities are hidden, which is in my case, but a lot of them are very obvious, which is in your case. And gosh, it's so hard to see each other's pain, but once you've walked it, it's so easy to have solidarity with someone and to be mindful of their journey. Gosh, I just can't imagine.
Absolutely.
I can't imagine the difficulty that some moms face when they feel alone in this. And I'm sure that, I know we all go through periods where we felt alone. And you mentioned that in your podcast a little bit too, just that, you didn't get to have the typical like new mom experience like some of your friends did.
Right. Yeah. I remember one time when he was really young, and it was hard to get out. Sometimes it still is. It can be kind of isolating to have kids with special needs, because when you take them places, sometimes they're yelling and screaming and everybody's looking at you and you don't really want to be the center of attention. But I remember one time he was pretty young and I had gone to the mall by myself and I was sitting eating lunch, and I think Brandon was home with the kids, just kind of giving me a little break. And I remember seeing this family, and you look at people and you think, oh, it's like the perfect situation, right? And it was like this family, and they had these two young kids. They're all sitting there eating together. And I remember just being like, oh my goodness, I'm never going to have that, But it wasn't true, really, because later on as he got older, we could go out and do some things, Yeah. But in the moment, you feel sometimes like you're alone, or like no one really understands what you're going through, or it's so easy to look at other people and think, they have everything that I don't have, or I wish I could have that in my family, And I think there's just a lot to be said for kind of realizing everybody's got problems. Everybody has difficulties. Who knows what they were really going through? They may have been going through some difficulty that I never will go through or something, you know?
Right.
But just kind of learning to be content in the situation that you're given. And sometimes that takes a lot of time to work through to that point.
Yeah.
And working through all those, you know, emotions and everything. But yeah, it definitely, I think what has helped me is finding friends who have kids with special needs, being able to talk to them about it just because they get it, you know, and the things that I can say, hey, we're struggling with that. Oh, yeah, we've had that too. It's like, oh, finally, someone understands what I'm talking about. So, yeah.
Absolutely. Oh, I love it. So you've gotten a good response since your episode came out? We talked a little bit before and you haven't listened to it, which is like, we decided that it's kind of weird to hear your own voice.
I was like, I don't know if I'm going to listen to it.
I mean, you were there, so you remember it. You're good.
Right. But maybe I could learn something else from myself. I don't know.
Maybe you had some words of wisdom in your like mom brain.
Oh, you know, wow. I didn't know I said that.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. It was after bedtime when every mom's just mind like turns to mush. So
exactly.
Oh goodness. Okay. So, what do you think? So back then, you know, where we talked about you walking into that orphanage and just being like, what on earth is happening to me, versus now when you're looking at a kid who's pretty funny, right? Like he's surprisingly funny and happy. And then, you know, 30 hours of therapy a week, which is crazy. I mean, what does your life look like then versus now? And would you be surprised?
Do you mean then from like when I first adopted him?
Yeah, or just when you were first learning about what this journey was going to look like. Is it easier or is it harder than you thought? And I mean, after you learned that, you know, he had some disabilities.
I think it is definitely one thing you have to take as kind of one day at a time or one season at a time. My life with him right now does look completely different than it did 5 years ago and even 10 years ago. And the things that we were doing then, I don't think I could have imagined the things that we are doing now in therapy and just different things in life. You know, I really didn't know what it was going to look like as far as his communication, because he's nonverbal, and so he uses a communication device. But when he was very young, I just really believed, you know, he was going to speak verbally. And so, you know, I think that I try not to even think years ahead with him, like 5 years ahead or anything like that, because I don't know. I just have to take it kind of one day at a time.
Yeah, definitely. And I mean, that was one of my my favorite parts of your episode was when you were talking about someone mentioning or talking to you about how he was nonverbal, and you were like, yeah, but I'm praying about it.
Right.
I like I said, I listened to part of the episode today and I still like cracked up when I heard that, because isn't that the truth? We feel like, well, God's got this, so it's going to turn out exactly the way I want it.
The way I think it's going to, right?
Yeah.
This is my plan. God's just going to fall in line with it, right?
I'm praying about it, so it's fine.
Right.
Oh, I love it. It's so funny. So, I mean, yeah, did you have anything else that you wanted to add just to sum up your interview or your experience with the podcast? I know that you were a little bit hesitant at first to share your story, but I'm so glad that you did. It was
this
so
is like
good.
Way out of my comfort zone. So, you know, I told you my sister texted me and she was like, oh, you're famous now. And I was like, not by choice. Not that I'm really famous, you know, but I was laughing because I was like, yeah, Alex just kept bugging me, like saying, you have to do this.
It's true. I don't give a lot of options for people that I want to interview. I'm like, so when are you available? I'm still working on someone else that goes to our Bible study. I won't mention names.
Oh, yeah. No, but it's been good. I mean, it's great to hear feedback from people being encouraged, and I really do love adoption, and I think it's a wonderful thing. It can be really difficult at times, and it can change your life in good and bad ways. But I think it's such a blessing, and so I'm glad you talked me into this. But yeah, so it's been good.
Good. Well, I'm glad I talked you into it too, because the comments even I'm getting from people that don't know you, and they were like, "Oh my gosh, this episode was amazing."
Well, that's great.
Good job, Camille. Good job living a really hard life that we get to benefit from.
Right.
I'm kidding, kind of. Okay, so before we close out, I just wanted to give you guys just an update on the birth mom brunch luncheon thing that we have been talking about for a while now. I've gotten lots of comments about people saying that they want to be involved, which is awesome. And if you listen to this week's episode, I gave a little bit of a plug at the beginning of the episode, but if not, the Births Moms Brunch is going to be here local in Northwest Arkansas, obviously. And it'll be on National Birth Mom Day, which is Saturday, May 12th. It'll be 10 to 12 at the Grove Church in Fayetteville. If you are local and can give some hands-on help, awesome. You should totally reach out to me. If you're not local and you still want to reach out, we can totally use assistance monetarily or just resource-wise or anything like that. So we would love, love, love your help and support. So reach out to me on Facebook or at alexfittin@gmail.com. I'm sorry, I just moved the camera with me. Anyway, so thank you so much, Camille, for joining me. This was a lot of fun.
It was fun. Thanks for having me.
Of course, I'll see you guys later.
Bye.